0.2, so it's twice what is required. But this is actually two buildings which is linked by an atrium in between. So there's two buildings with a continuous skin and ramp, and that the atrium is in between the building, and above the building are glass louvers which are automated. So on a normal day, they're open, but if it rains, it shuts. And so this shows us the louvers open to let the hot air out. And then the two blocks are linked by bridges, linked by a bridge. And this is a bridge that links the two buildings. One of the experiments we have in this project is a diagonal light shaft. There's a light shaft which is not vertical but angled. And so you can see the light shaft goes from the top left going all the way down to the street level. And the white square shows where the light shaft is, and the colored diagram shows the lighting intensity of the floors. And so this looking down from the light shaft down to the street. This brings daylight to the inner parts of the building, and this is looking up at the skylight. This is the eco-cell for this building. It brings the vegetation and the rainwater down to the basement. That's where it is located in the building, and this is what it looks like as the eco-cell. Connectivity and nexus. This is a scheme that we designed actually in Bangalore. This is for a developer called Soma. There is a forest reserve on the right-hand side. We collected all the species and brought it across the site, so that this is the master plan. And you can see the species being collected and brought across the whole entire site to connect to adjoining sites. But where it crisscrosses the road system, to maintain the continuity, what we did was to create eco-bridges so that the vegetation is continuous across the landscape. The next is the system hydrology. This is a water reticulation system. And what we try to do is to close the loop within the building as much as possible. But anything that is on the outside, we bring it back to the ground through bioswales and through rain gardens. But for the black water, rather than have mechanical treatment, we bring it through a series of constructed wetland so that it is almost pure when it reaches the last pond. Now, one of the properties that nature does for us is a provision of ecosystem services. Ecosystem services are a list of things that nature does that we cannot see, but nature does it without human intervention. Just like production of oxygen, maintenance of biodiversity, purification of water and air, recycling and distribution of fresh water, and so forth. Now these are amazing properties that nature does. There's no way that human beings can imitate this. And so if we continue to destroy the ecosystems in nature and destroy the habitats, we lose the capability of producing this. Can you imagine a world without oxygen, a world without pure water? And so preserving ecosystem service is a very crucial part of ecological design. So now, just like photosynthesis, till today technology has not been able to imitate it, it has not been able to do it in entirety. There are some systems which do it to a certain extent, but not in entirety. Or sequestering of pollution from our contaminating production sources. Nature absorbs the carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, but to some extent, but not that effectively because we're producing much more than nature is able to sequester. So the idea I had was we cannot reproduce this technologically, so we need to augment nature, augment our built systems. And so the idea was to weave nature into our built environment, just like two clasped hands. And so that this master plan we did for an island called the Reunion, which is east of Madagascar, where we brought nature, as a series of fingers leading up to the hills, And then the urban areas, the urban realm is brought in between this. So nature's right cheek by jowl with the urban areas to provide ecosystem services right next to the urban area. And so the dimension is about 30 meters, 20 to 30 meters between one and the other. And that the edges should not be pristine, but should be jagged, so that the species can find places to hide. And then, so that was the idea, that to produce ecosystem services, we have to integrate nature almost, in a weaving pattern with the urban realm. Now, nature also responds to climate, because the different parts of the world have different ecosystems, and the ecosystems depend on the climate of locality. And so, as you can see, in different parts of the world, different climatic zones, and that we all, in the cold climate and temperate climate, we have cold winters and hot summers, and that one way to rectify this is as I mentioned earlier on, to use the shaping of the building to reduce its energy consumption. And the other idea I had was, what happens if we do a building with umbrella over it? Umbrella is an incredibly useful device because it keeps out the sun, keeps out the rain, keeps out the wind. But not only that, umbrella is cybernetic. With the winds coming from that direction, you tilt it that direction. So that is my idea, that to design an umbrella building that is automated. I haven't been able to do this yet, but that is one of my goals. And so here's the... Sorry? We will do it. Good. Well, here's an umbrella. Thank you, sir. So this is an umbrella building over a railway station. This is a competition scheme we did for, we won the competition. This is the University of Malaya master plan, and where, the railway hub is again a canopy on top, a glass canopy. So the glass canopy in the earlier building, we had it vertical. Now we put it horizontal over the entire hub, and it's supposed to be linked by bridges. This is another one, which is different shaped umbrella, a series of office buildings. And this is a little house we did back in 1985 with a concrete umbrella that lets in the morning sun, keeps out the midday sun, and keeps out the afternoon sun. That's not moving. So then we use the swimming pool as the evaporative cooling device to bring cool water into the building. It's a small house, and that in the middle is that's natural. It is perforated so that wind flow north, south, east, and west across the house. This is the main passageway entering the house, and this is the passageway going up to the roof. The swimming pool, as you can see, is at the bottom, and that we started to use what we call a wing wall, in which the wind that comes in doesn't have to flow directly into the space, but it is deflected to enter the space. And so the shape of the house walls are angled so that it blurs the distinction between the inside and outside. So the house becomes a series of courtyards of inside and outside blended together. The energy consumption is about 42 watts per square meter for this house. And this is an interesting photograph that my daughter took, and right outside the house is the forest, and that's a monkey in the forest. Yeah. So that's the house, and this is another canopy building that we designed for the railway station in Xiong'an, which is south of Beijing. And the idea was again to have a series of modules which let the air through and shade the space below. And this is the continuous vegetation going up from the green areas into the top of the building. This is a renovation for a small building, again also in the Xiong'an area, south of Beijing. And it's an existing building. And what we did was to cut voids in the middle at the lower floors and create a number of flues going up. So you can see the new flue, and that in this way the flues suck the air up during the mid-seasons, during the spring and autumn, to reduce the need for air conditioning on the inside of the building. This is the green infrastructure across the site. Now, designing a low-energy building, I contend there are a number of strategies for doing this. Well, if you look at outside climate, and then you try and sort of, go through a series of steps so a series of steps from outside climate to passive mode, to mixed mode, to productive mode, to full mode, and eventually, if you can, to be totally using non-renewable sources of energy. So this is a project we did in London, which is the extension to the Great Ormond Street Hospital. And here we created a flue on the facade of the building, and the flue is a glass flue on top of the facade that it sucks in the air during the mid-season being spring and autumn, and so that we don't need to heat the heat and cool these areas, and extends the mid-season into the summer, into the winter. And so here it is. This is the valve at the bottom of the building, goes all the way up to the top of the building. And then productive mode is where we try and produce our own energy. This is an experimental design which is not built, where we use glass which has embodied photovoltaics in it, and with every incline it covers 2 floors, and so the whole building then becomes a power station by itself. But for this to work, at least 42% of the floor area has to be in photovoltaics. Now, this is my final idea. What is happening now is that with the existing city, which is the diagram on the left-hand side, architects start to build green and sustainable buildings. That's fine, and that some cities claim to be, have done maybe 2 million to 4 million square foot of sustainable buildings. But at the end of the day, the system remains ungreen. So the idea I was proposing is that what happens if we start with the infrastructure? Now, if I were to leave a single idea in your head, the green future is not with just doing green buildings. We have to start with the green infrastructure. With the green infrastructure, then anything else we add to it and makes the whole community mix over urban realm. And so we should be addressing the infrastructure first before we address the buildings. Now, then I thought, in green design, I'm just talking today about nature and water and conserving the water and preserving nature. But the 2 things that we need to look at is human society and our built environment. And the previous gentleman, and I really respect what he said, is that we have to change. We have to change our human society, our ways of thinking, and our culture, especially our culture wanting more and more. More and more money, more and more things, more and more clothing, more and more gratification. And then our building environment has to change. So green design to me is the integration of these 4 factors into a whole. I color code them by calling, nature green and human society red because of the color blood, technology gray and blue. And so green design is the integration of these 4 constituents into a whole. Now, this was a scheme that I presented earlier on, and these are the 4 components that are integrated into the design that I presented earlier on. This is the eco bridge so that the vegetation can flow from one side to the other side. Then I started to produce this diagram, which I'm still developing it. These are the key components that we need to consider in green design. The amount of energy, materials, and food, and people entering our built environment. The built environment has a first impact, has an operational impact, and has an end impact. And then what happens to the green environment? I'm trying to find a pointer here. Green environment at the the outputs, and then we need to close the loop as much as possible, and that everything depends on the natural constituents of the biosphere. Now, I'm going to end in a minute, but this is a very important issue. What happens if we got everything right? We got our designing of nature right, we got all the systems in the built environment to be sustainable, and our water systems are closed loops, and we have sufficient water for humanity. What happens if we human beings don't change? Then everything that we do is a waste of time and money. And so a green future is not just designing, it's changing society. We as human beings have to change.
Hello. Hello, ma'am. My question is to Bhakti, ma'am. Okay. I hope you are doing good. And I'm a lecturer over here at a BIT family. And before working over here, I used to work at Bangalore for a year of 5 years. So every morning when I used to go for a duty, I used to see every street at every woman in front of their home putting rangoli. Okay, and that's a traditional way what we Indians follow. But every morning those rangoli did not give me happiness, because before putting that rangoli, those people used to waste 1 to 2 buckets of water for cleaning that particular place. So do you feel this traditional way of what we Indians follow is leading to wastage of water? What is your message for these kind of things?
Okay, thank you for the question. So, as I said in my talk, that it's not that we are lacking water. Water is plenty. We just need to know how to manage it. So, if we managed it well, sure, you can get splashed in it, you can play in it, because the older generation has grown up playing, splashing water around. And we should be allowed to, as long as we take responsibility and manage it ourselves. So if we were to create a loop and create abundance of water, why not? You can, because you want to get cooler, because the idea of washing that place before you put the rangolis, it's you sanctify, you purify the place. Water is a purification. It's a symbol. And what we want to do is to, pay respect to it and utilize that to purify before we offer the next day's rangoli. So that those practices are not wrong. It's just what happens with the water itself we have to rethink. That's all. Because right now, the way the system is, it has made you quite dumb and dull. It has made all of us, not just you as a person, all of us around the world, not just in India. We all have become very numb to know what is happening. And that is not a good thing. And as soon as you take control, bring your awareness, learn about it. It's not rocket science. It is learnable, it is teachable. That's why I'm willing to teach. I've created a program around it. Just learn it, and that's all. And then you'll find suddenly your own property can be abundant, even if the whole city is stressing out. That's the beauty, that as soon as you become self-sufficient, you don't have to worry about, and then others will learn from you and you can teach others. That's the idea. Thank you.
I have a question on the groundwater recharge that happens. While it is encouraged to do the groundwater recharging, very often we have no control over the quality of water that goes into the aquifer, and that can pose to be a huge challenge, because the so far hitherto uncontaminated water, groundwater, suddenly gets contaminated. How do we stop this, and what are your views on this?
So first of all, we need to understand how does the water get under the ground, and how is it already available for us to ready to tap in. That's the first thing, because when we are taking the water from the ground, under the ground, we never think how did it get there. Because if we knew, or if we thought about it, we will then think, okay, how can we sustain it so that we can keep taking water out of it. So the way it has always happened is there's a natural recharge process when the urbanization or the buildings did not occur. So when you hear from the old stories from the villages, they always drew water and they never bothered about recharging, right? That is because the natural recharge was taken care and the rate at which you draw the water was not as much as they had open wells. They didn't have pumping water, out of it. So they were having water as and when they needed. And the recharge was enough to balance that. But now when we in a city situation, we have paved all the surfaces. And that's why, as we saw in Dr. Young's presentation, we really need to think about how can you make sure the city is designed, the buildings are designed in a way that you are able to retain the natural processes. But we have not done that in the current cities. The buildings have paved, we have made hard surfaces everywhere. That is what we call city. And as soon as you have hard surface, the natural recharge is not happening. And on top of that, you're drawing water much more than any water is going underneath. So that means if you have to recharge, it is no more natural. You have to do in a managed way. So there are technologies which allow you to collect all the water that flows whenever it rains and direct it into the aquifer in a safe way. And so what you're saying is, it is not a matter of just taking the water and dumping it. It is a careful process, an engineered process of, as again taking inspiration from Dr. Yang, what he is suggesting is, we can engineer by mimicking the nature. So naturally what would happen is water will get filtered through the layers of the soil. So we can't do that, but understanding that's what we need to do, we can create a filtration process which you take all your water that you collect after rainfall over from the road or from the roof and then pass it through the filtration and then let it inject into the aquifer zone. So all I'm saying is, knowing that it is contaminated, it is very much in our hands to uncontaminate it. The technology exists, but it's just that how we apply it. That's all.
Incidentally, it's been consciously made a part of the regulations these days to make people compulsory recharge groundwater. But at the same time, there are no regulations to address the quality issues. Yes. So actually, all the good that has been done is undone by this.
True, but also I find that people are not even recharging. There may be a rule. Rule alone doesn't. You should not be doing something because it's a regulation. Because it's for your own water security. Once you understand that, you won't need regulation. And when there is a regulation, often the city policy makers, they don't provide a supporting environment or to show how to do it. They only say you should do it without telling them how to do it. Then people will be not helped. So that is the reason for the program that we have created, is that once we have some auditors out there in the community going to the buildings and showing them how to do, then you won't need regulation. You don't need to be regulated for your own water secure future. And I feel we have already reached a point where we have to become aware and understand and build a capacity and do it ourselves.
Madam, my question is, actually you asked where is the water is available, where is the source. There are two types of source. One is surface source, another one is underground. Actually in surface source, actually we are contaminating in rural areas as well as urban areas. In rural areas, like our farmers are using fertilizers and pesticides for their agricultural growth. Then in the urban areas, we are polluting water by means of industrial pollutants. Actually, there is a lot of focus should be on this. Otherwise, even though source is there, it is not fit for use. What government can take action, because without using fertilizers and pesticides, farmers will not grow the things. But how we can help them? Actually, in the morning session, Mansoor sir is doing actually organic farming. Actually, he worked in Bollywood and went to US and entered great institutions. Afterwards, he is going for organic farming. Actually, many farmers are already there. They are from the birth itself, they are working with that. How to motivate them to become organic farming? But immediately it's not possible because it is there is a problem with the economy. How to do all this? I think it is a long-term process. If you do this one, I think after 5 or 10 years, I think this a surface source 90% will be fit for use immediately. What is the solution for this, madam?
So what you are talking about is a system which is at the city scale, right? And my idea is that the problem, as I said, is because we have not closed the loop. We have been operating it in a linear way and ended up contaminated. So whenever you want to close the loop, it is easiest done at closer to the source where you're using the water, right? The more the close, you can always do it at a city scale, which means at the city scale then you have to think, okay, now I'm collecting all the wastewater from the city, I better treat it and then put it back into the system somehow. That can happen, some cities are doing it, it is not impossible, but it's a very, through government, if you're waiting for a government entity to do it, it can take time, it will take a lot of infrastructure, a lot of planning. Do we have the time? That is my question. We are running out of time at the moment. So I am saying that yes, cities should do and can do. However, I would prefer to engage with the water users directly because we have the power. We should not forget that. As soon as we understand our own responsibility, do understand the science of water, understand the mechanics of water at your own building level, and do what you can do, what is well within your control to do it, and make yourself self-sufficient, what that does is it starts to create a new normal of so many buildings being self-sufficient. And as soon as you do that, then the cities can do the job of giving water to people who can't afford to do. That was what government should be doing. Not for people, educated people, we can take care of our own water. So we should be doing our own part. That way it allows room for government to do more beautiful things like green infrastructure. Otherwise, if they're busy supplying you water and treating our water, why should we if we can do it ourselves? That is my thesis. That let us take care of our own water because we can. We are educated, we can afford it, it is not expensive anymore. So that will leave so much room in the system which is right now under pressure, under burden with the population growth, to then you're not depending on the system, you're allowing the system to do some other better things of supplying water to the slums where they don't even have access to water, or doing some greener, integrating green infrastructure. That needs to be done. These simple things we should be able to solve it ourselves. And we don't have time. If you are going to rely on government to make a policy and do something, good luck.
Things are like these kind of aspects are missing in our education system, but though it is not in our syllabus, but being educated person, we are teaching those kids. So we can start such kind of small workshops, such kind of activities that motivate our kids to be sustainable, towards sustainable living, I feel. So we can, yeah. Uh,
I think that's a very, very, undeniable, aspect and highly important aspect, but very little attention is paid to consciously strategize and do it. So, I can give examples of what we did in Cleveland. We have seeds in every fruit and every vegetable, but how many of us are constantly consciously preserving, in a day-to-day basis? You cut your tomatoes, there are several seeds in it. How many people take the effort to actually put it in water, let it ferment, take a few days, and then we don't even know the number of days it has to be there, and then until it is ready to actually start spurting again. So again, those type of simple knowledge is also lost, somewhere, even in the generation that is currently there. So what we tried there is to actually, do pop-up things. We'll show up, in the afternoon, we'll invite parents along with their children. We created this type of awareness to show them how to actually save the seeds. Day-to-day things that you buy, because we are now going back to what it was, like, trying to go back to native, like nati variety vegetables and fruits and things like that, which is no longer available back there. So again, we also show the kids how to throw seed balls. We put them, weeds and everything, into a clay, and we make balls. And when we go and travel, in the road, we just show them how to throw it. So the weed, specific types of weed grow, so we can actually bring in biodiversity. We bring in, the species that is lost. So these simple techniques actually, that also lets them to connect. We can't really take them to national parks and, places like that to connect. But these simple things day to day, if as parents we can show them, and then we can, take it further is what, I would suggest.
Hello, my name is Dinakar. Uh, I'm an architect coming from one of the builders company. Uh, Dr. Kane, I have a request. Like your presentation has showed an inspiration saying that you have tried a system in the built form in architecture where you can find a solution to be with ecosystem, and there are so many items you have laid out. It really opened my eyes actually. There are so many things you have to consider when you are designing. It was more like, if I'm not wrong, other students also would agree with me, putting a tree in the building in a view or presentation or in a drawing, that makes it really good. That's going to be ecosystem. But so many items when I looked at it, because practically when I tried designing it, no, when we put a big size, maybe beyond 10 feet or 11 feet kind of a plants in a second floor or third floor, there is a lot of things to be considered: waterproofing, water maintenance, cleaning. How do we go to? So it goes in a lot of other engineering techniques to make sure that it stands and make sure that that plant grows and whatever the ecosystem can be made into it. In this scenario, I just wanted to ask you, like, in your works, did you come across like there is a building, it has been done in this way, and yes, whatever the purpose we try to make it, make sure that the ecosystem has been maintained for that building. Something like the beauty is not changed, it has more greenery, and there is ecosystem and habitat has happened that way, so that it gives more inspiration, which I think I might have missed. I don't know. Just wanted to explain, because what Ms. Vedavya told, the 10 years of experiment, it has showed a growth where ultimately I think the last year we got the award like that. Something. Is there any of the buildings which you have come across where we can look into, and yes, I can really put myself to make my engineers to build for a maybe 10 feet or 20 feet trees in 4th floor, 8th floor, 10th floor, where I can make sure that yes, this will make sure that it is an ecosystem I am building for the environment and society. But do we have any recorded? Yes, it has been for 10. It has been some 5 years, 10 years, or something, and now it is still maintaining, because we too have done so many houses like created recharge scenarios, or with solar panels. You look for after 5 years or 6. I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, the Bolster building.
Okay. Okay.
The Bolster building, the one with planting on the outside was done in 1985.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one with the spiraling planting was completed in 2010. And so the Putrajaya building, the one with the planting in the biodiversity concept, that's completed about 9 months ago. But our new buildings will be even more interesting. And so, yeah.
The more interesting part is where it required more of an engineering, expertise to make sure it stands.
Yeah, but, I don't want to show it until it's been built, so, it's an ongoing experiment. Yeah.
Sir, this is the last question. I hope no questions. Any questions? I have one question to Dr. Yang.
Yes, sir.
I don't know whether this question is a little premature, in the sense, could you shed, I heard you have been working on a floating city as a concept. Could you shed some light on this, please?
Well, we're doing a competition now for a site in Saudi Arabia. The site is so ecologically important and significant that we don't want to build on that site. So the only solution we can think of is to raise all the buildings above ground. So it is a city in the sky. So the whole city, the whole development is raised above ground. The concourse, the boardwalk is raised above ground. The stadium is raised above ground, football stadium, and the tennis stadium, even the golf course is raised above ground. So a golf course is a series of platforms that you can whack the ball from one platform to another platform. So the idea of a city in the sky is an interesting proposition. And then it occurred to me that maybe we should be doing this for all cities now. That rather than build on the ground, because once you build on the ground, you scrape the earth, you remove the topsoil, which is very valuable, and then, as this young lady says, you put impervious surfaces, which then drains the water into the rivers and into the sea. Once the water is drained into the rivers and the sea, is gone forever. You need to bring the water to fall in the land to stay in the land, and that's what by raising the development above the ground floor, above the ground plane, we preserve, conserve, and restore and rehabilitate the ground plane, the ecology of the ground plane.
I thank all the panelists. We are run terribly short of time. Now I invite Mazur sir to come and do the felicitations.
Good evening, everyone. Of our 2 days international conference of 2K19, we have gathered here for the valedictory function. So I now call upon Professor Ahmed Rimaz Faizabadi to read out the names of the best paper and best poster award winners.
Very good evening to one and all present here. Maybe it's a very most awaited moment for many of the participants. I would like to say all have given their best, and few among them were able to present and come out very well on the occasion. I'll read out session wise best paper winners. EC track, paper ID 19030, Muhammad Azim Hafiz, Government of Karnataka. If he is present, please collect the certificate. Okay. Yes, sir. You can. So his guide will collect on behalf of the Azim Hafiz. Please present the best paper award. I request Chairman sir to present the best paper award, please. Sustainable Urban Development Track. The paper ID is 19080, Sirisha Bhatt. I request the sir to come and receive the best paper award, please. Sir is from NITE Institute of Architecture. Computer Science Session 1, Best Paper Award goes to the paper ID 19074, that is Chaitra KM from JSS ATE Noida. Civil Engineering Track, paper ID 19040, Srinath N. Raval. He is from GMIT Davangere. Mechanical Engineering Best Paper Award goes to paper ID 19107, Farooq Ahmed GM from Bellary, Government College of Engineering, Bellary. Basic Science track best paper award goes to the paper ID 19068, Sandeep KM. From BIT. Okay. Computer Science and Engineering, Session 2, Best Paper Award goes to the MTech student of Berries Institute of Technology, Suzefa. Suzefa. Okay. Suzefa. Session 3, Computer Science and Engineering, paper ID 19084, Suneha from Berries Institute of Technology. Resource Conservation track, best paper ID is 19004, that is Shobhan Mujamdar from Berries Institute of Technology. Session 4, Computer Science and Engineering, paper ID 19031, Abdul Hassan Garoob from Berries Institute of Technology. May I request Ken Young, sir, Dr. Ken Young, to present the best poster awards in field of architecture. The first prize goes to the team number 10. Author is Mr. Sahas V from School of Architecture, Dayanand Sagar, Bangalore. It's from the track Sustainable Urban Development, Resource Conservation and Food Security. It's a best poster award with a cash prize as promised. Second best paper award goes to Mr. Abdur Razzaq Tanveer from Beads for the title of the poster Meta Architecture. The best poster award for the posters in the theme Advanced Recent Trends in Engineering and Technology best poster award in this category, the first prize goes to Mr. Purnesh and team from Civil Engineering Department, Berries Institute of Technology, for the title of the poster Design of Sewage Treatment Plant for the treatment of hostel waste water at the Berries Institute. The second best poster award in this category goes to Miss Rahmat and team from the Department of CSE, various Institute of Technology, Engineering for the poster title Network Intrusion Detection using machine learning. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I now request our beloved chairman, Mr. Syed Mohammed Berry, to conclude the SURF 19 and present the way forward.
Respected dignitaries of the dais, students, winners, participants, faculty members, and all those who have contributed for the success of SURF 19. I salute and I express my gratitude to every one of you from my depth of my heart. International conference generally takes a year of vision, hard work, follow-up, and that brings in the result. Here, as always, we work on out of the box. If somebody says 12 months, we will say, how about 2 months? If somebody says 2 months, how about 2 weeks? And if they say somebody 2 weeks, we say, how about 2 days? You know, it is all here. You know, as I told you yesterday, Eiffel Tower is built in 11 months. Eiffel Tower is built in 11 months. Every day, the engineers, you must write, Eiffel Tower built in 11 months. And what the hell I am doing, taking 18 months for a small little building. So that is how we need to ignite. You know, we must change we must have a destructive mentality to bring in the best out of us. So I must tell you, in 2.5 months, the kind of the international conference, not only right from the name to the kind of speaker network, the kind of audience, the kind of participation, right from Kerala to New Delhi, you know, it is something really, really amazing. I think, you know, I'm sure that the very SURF was not merely a name, it has really ignited the mind of youth, students, and the faculty member. I would like to thank profusely for Dr. Alok Kumar Srivatsav, who was our first keynote addressee, and Dr. S.A. Khansa, and this morning, Mr. Mansoor Khan, he has just left now, and our ever famous architect, Ken Yang, Dr. Ken Yang. Along with them, Bharat Mansata, our friend from Madurai, Amarnath, and our Shakti and Bhakti. Bhakti Madam and Deepa, and who else I left? I have left anybody? Yeah, then our principals of BIT and BEADS and Polytechnic, my son Mazhar, and our Muhammad Haikal from Malaysia. He is a senior colleague of Dr. Ken Yang, and the coordinator of this wonderful function, Dr. Mustafa Bastikodi. Friends, in this SURF 19, I think we need to set for our goal for SURF 20 now itself. That is how we need to work. So we thought we will have SURF 20. There are two primary changes. One changes is, the kind of heat wave happening here. I felt it is not the right time to work on a next SURF 20. And number two, we need to get more international speaker, keynote address speaker, and to get them, we have to inform them at least 8 to 9 months in advance. And number two, normally they schedule their year-end trip, generally in December end and Jan beginning. That is where their Christmas, New Year holidays and things like that takes place. So we thought if you'll have it on first week of Jan 2020, that falls on 3rd and 4th of Jan. 3rd, 4th is Friday and Saturday. So next Surf 2020 will be on 3rd and 4th of January 2020. The second aspect of that, because yesterday we had an inaugural session, we realized that with best of our effort, we want to start at 10 o'clock, but didn't happen. And it always happens in the beginning. So it took place around 10:20, then it went up to 11:45, and then the first session, even though the speakers were trying to justify their opportunity, the audience was not supportive enough, because most of the audience has to go for the mass, the Friday mass. So what we decided in the 2020 Surf onwards, we will have only the morning session inaugural. Inaugural will have a extended talk and a presentation and stuff like that. And the first session will start post lunch. So Friday we will have post lunch 2 session, provided with our a surf get together, family get together kind of a thing. And Saturday we will have two more events. So so that the idea of the surf is, it is not merely meeting, eating, discussing, partying, and out of sight, out of mind. That is not the purpose. The purpose is, that was my desire, that was my prayer to God Almighty, that make the change. We need to bring the change in this surf. In that commitment, in that ownership, we need to work. And I'm sure, with the intention being pure and clean, God's blessings will always be there. And one day, this platform will bring in the change, so that the political leaders, the government agency, the policy maker should bring in that change which is derived from Surf 2020 or any other Surf, to implement for the betterment of the humankind. Once again, I thank you, every one of you, to partake in this event, and thank you so much. Good luck. Thank you.
Now we are concluding the 2.5 months efforts we have put together for SUF 19. I would like to take this occasion to thank the people who are all involved to make it most successful, our dream conference. Starting from yesterday morning, the people whose name already read by our Honorable Chairman, Dr. Alok Kumar, Dr. Bharat Mansata, Dr. Mr. Amarnath Al-Sumali, who started the panel discussion with food security. Then afternoon we continue with engineering technology, headed by Dr. S.A. Khan, Dr. Somshekar, Dr. Venkatrampai, and Dr. Chandrasekharan K. And we had in today morning the celebrities, Mr. Mansoor Khan, we had Dr. Kenyang, and we had Dr. Bhakti Devi, architect Deepa, and also the entrepreneur Akram Sayed, who was a special guest for us. I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude from all of us to all these speakers who have helped us, to make all the panel discussions very successful. Then comes the technical committee, who have reviewed, checked the plagiarisms, and who chaired the sessions, the externals and internals. I would like to extend the gratitude to them also. And especially our management. Without their help, I would like to say that more than 70% of the work done by the Bangalore office. And what you see, the publicity, you can see from that junction till here, and all the designs, and till late night they were there in the office, and they made sure that yesterday morning everything set up. Especially our Mr. Mazhar Berry, who was here for last 1 week. And he always come 1 or 2 days before the event. Any bigger event happens here, he stays till late night and sleeps 2 to 3 hours. Early morning come here, he'll be the first person to reach to the campus. And we are very thankful to you, sir. And when I say in this campus, now without the three principals, the principal Berry's Institute of Technology, the principal Berry's Architecture Design School, and director BIT Polytechnic were always guide to us, especially to me. Any small guidance I require, I used to go to them and ask, can we do like this? Thank you very much for your guidelines and suggestions. Then my organ is co-fellows, HODs of all the departments, because this is not particular stream. It's for all the tracks, all the streams. Without their help, this conference and especially the paper presentation wouldn't have been possible. Thank you very much, all the HOD who have guided me as well, supported me in this event. Then comes to all the faculties of the departments who has taken their responsibilities and they coordinate different tasks, especially food, then the discipline, crowd management, and till the last moment I was rushing with the certificate delivery team. From yesterday morning they started till last. They start first and end with that, writing the certificate. It's the biggest task, writing around 500 certificates and delivering on time. Thank you very much. And the media people, the photographers, and especially the V4 News, who started yesterday morning, and yesterday he did not have lunch break also, and the late noon he had a lunch, he was covering, and till now he's on live. Thank you very much for supporting us for 2 days and complete your media time. And all the students who have gathered here and from yesterday morning who have supported us for making this most successful event, thank you very much. And last but not the least, and it should be first always, I would like to thank our Honorable Chairman. This was his concept and his script, and we have just executed. Thank you very much, sir, for being with us from beginning till end. Thank you very much.
It's a good news. It's a good news. After looking at the entire efforts, the series of the days and the continuous series of the meetings we had, day when it has declared that the SURF is going to happen, that's SURF 19 in our institution. And we are all the part of this, the program international conference. And I wanted to declare, now it is a decision which we took it. And every year, one of the department has to come forward to take up the responsibility to execute. And in that connection, I am very much happy and proud to announce that on this platform on the occasion, August occasion, that the mechanic, because we had the close discussion with all head of the departments and faculty of all the department, even then, the mechanical engineering department has came forward voluntarily to accept, to organize the entire responsibility to organize for the SURF 2020, and the closing day is the beginning of to organize the 2020. That is the with which they have taken up. Let me congratulate on this occasion. Thank you. Thank you all.